Once at my first job, I blacked out while eating and sitting and fell backwards. No notice. And if it hadn't been for the person sitting beside me to catch my head, I would have cracked my skull. Nevertheless, God protected me one time after another. I always skipped breakfast and would walk to the local high school where I taught 11th and 12th graders. One morning, I blacked out in the snow with books and purse in hand and everything. And some kind people called the ambulance and took me to the university infirmary. When I came to, I did not remember a thing. After a day of rest, I'm back to the school, back to my schoolwork. Okay, so I want to skip some of this and say that, what time am I finished, Kathy? 11, okay. So my husband, my fiance, would take me to the finest restaurants in New York, and I would always order shrimp cocktail. Love shrimp. So one time I was sitting there eating shrimp. I'm getting ready to put it in my mouth, and he says, "You know what that black thing is on the shrimp?" I said, "No." "What is it?" He says, "That's the shrimp's fecal excretion." I dropped it. No more shrimp for me. I was becoming a health reformer, preparing to become a Seventh-day Adventist and did not know it. And one time, you know those little carts they push in New York and they say, "Hot dogs," and so I wanted to order a hot dog. So I went over to the cart and I said, "Can I have a hot dog? Nice, long, juicy hot dog with mustard and ketchup and all that." And then Rick said, "If you're going to eat a hot dog, why don't you eat a beef one?" I said, "What's the difference?" "What's the difference?" He says, and then he told me how hot dogs were made. Do you all know how hot dogs are made? And I didn't eat any more hot dogs. So I'm telling you, God led me on step by step, but I did not know it. But look, when I got that little book, Counsels on Diets and Foods, that was it. Everything I read, I don't care what I had to give up, it's got to go. Okay, so I was taught that you shouldn't eat meat, and that you should eat meat, and if you ate meat, you would die. So I never heard of vegetarians or healthy diets or anything like that. But anyway, when I met Rick, I was actually singing at the Apollo Theater. I had won 5 nights in a row. Do you all know what the Apollo Theater is? Some of you do. The rest of you don't know. Do you? You do? How many know what the Apollo Theater is? This brother over here knows everything. Okay, the Apollo Theater is the biggest, black theater where all the black stars started. And so when I won 5 nights in a row, they said, "Okay, you can open for the Temptations, you can open for Lou Rawls," and then they asked me for a meeting because they wanted to manage my singing career. And I remember I had just met my husband-to-be. I said, "Could you come to this meeting for me because I really don't have a representative?" He came, and he sat there like a bump on a log and didn't say anything the whole time. These men were just talking, and as they were talking, a picture came in my mind. I said, "These are dirty old men. I'm not going to sign with them." And then afterward, I said to Rick, "Why didn't you say something?" He says, "There's nothing to say. It's your decision what you do." He became my manager. And that's how I got my record on the radio when I was getting baptized. Anyway, I'm going to skip some more things here. Right after we got baptized, there was a doctor, a man named J.M. Hoffman, having a series of meetings in the Times Square Center in New York City. They were health. Anybody remember this brother? He's a little short Jewish brother, and he had 4 PhDs. He was brilliant. So we went every time they opened the door. So this one time he said, "If you have these things in your refrigerator, go home and throw them out." So I was writing real quick, and I went home, I threw them all out. Then I realized I had an empty refrigerator. I said, what am I going to eat? I had no direction. And so, anyway, my husband to-be said, I'm going to open up a vegetarian restaurant in New York City. Who's going to be the cook? He says, you are. And I said, I don't know how to cook vegetarian food. And he said, get yourself a good cookbook. You know what cookbook I got? 10 Talents, that's it. And I studied it like I would study the Bible. Pretty soon, the restaurant seated 60 people. People would come and say, oh, the food is so good. Who's the chef? And I would say, I don't know about the chef, but I'm the cook and the bottle washer and everything else. And anyway, the Lord blessed our ministry there tremendously. Now, getting back to the health message. So I changed my diet. I threw away all the things that were bad. But then I said, you know, there has to be an answer to this. Well, the health message saved my life. Here are the foods that I threw away. Flesh foods, dairy products, and this is since 1970. Not a drop of anything here. Sugar and ice cream. I just bought sugar not too long ago because I said, well, you know, if you have a wound, you can put sugar on it, dampen, and it will extract the poisons. Did you know that? So sugar is good for something. Okay, I threw away vinegar. Oh, I did not know lemon juice was a good substitute for that. But I have not used vinegar. And then tea and coffee and colas. White bread, sweet pastries, potato chips, candy, Kool-Aid, and all sugary drinks. I used to eat one meal all day long, little meals, you know, so you don't get fat, supposedly. But did you know that's intermittent fasting? And that's what E.G. White did. She ate at 6 and at 1. So when I found that out, I said, I'm going to do that too. So now I don't drink with my meals because it dilutes juices and ruins the digestion, causing bloating and sour stomachs and flatulence. There's not enough light here. That's why I'm squinting. Okay. So I don't eat fruits and vegetables together at the same meal because they digest differently, and it causes fermentation and bloating, etc. I do not eat late after 2 p.m. unless there is an emergency. This drains the life forces, and the digestive system must rest when you rest for breakfast for the next day's activities. You will not be prepared. I do not eat until I am full. This is the worst habit to break. It steals your strength, clarity, and concentration of mind. It is a drowsiness, It is a medically recognized condition called food coma, a state of drowsiness after the meal. That's when you overeat. I don't think you're going to overeat today. They have a healthy meal prepared. You cannot understand truth or have clear spiritual discernment. Revelation 3:18, the last part, that's the eye salve that we need. And no snacks, no beverages. You know, juices prepare you for diabetes. Did you know that? I used to buy 3 or 4 bottles of juice when my children were little, and 2 days later they were all gone. And I says, this will not work. So I did some research, and I realized I was preparing them to be a diabetic. It's concentrated sugar. So, why no eating in between meals, only water? This is my favorite habit because of the peace and clarity of mind and bodily strength with no regrets for over 5 decades. No more blackouts. My lifestyle and daily activities were ordered around the 8 laws of health. It's simple, free, and proven by my lifestyle and thousands of others. I almost never get sick. So here's the acronym that God gave me. It's called Start Now. A little different than New Start, but it tells you when to start, now. So S is for sunshine, T is for temperance, A is for always exercise, E is for rest, T is for trust in our Creator, Jesus Christ, N is for nutrition, plant-based diet, Genesis 1:29 and 3:18. O is for oxygen, and that is negative ions, and W is for water. So I want to skip some more and get over here where I'm going to tell you why it's important that you become a health reformer and a medical missionary now. How many of you know the last 2 works that will be done on this earth by Seventh-day Adventists? What are they? Medical missionary work, and what else? Huh? That's it. That's it, brother. Getting the books out, the tracts, the books, everything, magazines for people to read. So these are the seeds that will bear fruit in the harvest. So 18 reasons why you should be a medical missionary now and a health reformer. We have come to a time when every member of the church should be a what? Medical missionary. It is better to prevent disease than to know how to treat it when it is contracted. Disease is an effort of nature to free the system from the conditions that result from what? A violation of the laws of health. Eating, drinking, and dressing have a direct bearing upon our spiritual advancement. God's people are to be genuine medical missionaries, ministering to the needs of the soul and body. Combine medical missionary work with the 3 angels' messages and health reform principles. See if the breath of life will not come into the church. Every church, and I have the references here, but for the sake of time, I'm not reading them. Every church is to be a training center or a training school for medical missionary. When my husband and I moved to this area in 2016, he was gone in 2017, September 1st. But in 2020, thanks to Kathy and another sister, we had our first medical missionary training in this area at this church. Pastor Morgan opened up his doors to us. He didn't know me from anybody. And guess what? There were 9 churches at least represented, and over 70 people came for 5 nights. So, soon no work will be done in ministerial lines but medical missionary work. The health reform is one of the greatest branches of the work for the preparation for the coming of the Son of Man. Those who live in the last days of this earth's history need to be fully established in the principles of health reform. Nothing will open doors for the truth like evangelistic medical missionary work. Health reform is for our salvation and the salvation of the world. Have you heard the phrase, health reform is not salvific? That just says just the opposite. Medical missionary work is the pioneer work, the right hand, the right arm, and the entering wedge. God is not only calling upon the ministers, but also upon physicians, nurses, canvassers, Bible workers, and other laymen of varied talents to be medical missionaries. Cancers, tumors, and all inflammatory diseases, we heard this with Dr. Leon, are caused by meat eating. Cancers, tumors, and all inflammatory diseases are largely caused by meat eating. Thus, we plant disease in our tissues and our blood. You want to be healthy? Get off of all meat. And meat is fish. Did you know that? There are certain Seventh-day Adventists that think that fish is not meat. It has blood in it, and it moves. Okay. God is not only calling for the ministers. I read that. Okay. Then, when exposed to malarious atmosphere, prevailing epidemics, and contagious diseases, the system is not in a condition to resist the disease. What is she talking about? Pestilences. Those who eat meat are much more liable to get the disease. I never had COVID because I eat primarily an alkaline diet, free from GMO grains. Okay, 2 more. Put the veggie meat down. Stepping on some toes here. And slowly back away. According to Loma Linda health researcher, it causes higher mortality rate in vegetarians, published in American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, May 25, 2022. The last one, drugs never cure, only change the location of the disease and hurry the person on to the grave. All of those were quotes from the servant of the Lord, and I just want to say to each one of you, if you have not taken up this health message, actually, I miss a good part on here, because I talk about, how many of you have seen the book by T. Colin Campbell, The China Study? He proved through that study the healthiest people on the planet are plant-based eaters. And also, did you know, I'm sure every Seventh-day Adventist knows about the blue zones? And there's only one in America. And where is that? Loma Linda. And Loma Linda is, you know, there's Adventists from A to Z when it comes to the health message. I'm talking about following the counsel that was given to us by the servant of the Lord. If you want to be healthy and if you want to prevent disease. I rarely get sick. Rarely have pain unless I fall. No surgeries, no this, no that. I mean, you name it. How could that be for over 50 years? Because I accepted a health message that I never heard of. But I believed it was from God. And I walked in it. I didn't talk about it. I obeyed the counsel. And that is what is important in these last days. Do you know, I guess I better read here. Nutrition 2023, the researchers, this is in this country as well, analyzed medical records of 719,147 veterans. It was a questionnaire and data and concluded, get started on 8 healthy habits. 8? And guess what? If you get started on these 8 healthy habits by the age 40, you can extend your life, this was hard to believe, 20 to 23 years. In other words, you might live till Jesus comes. The only difference is no smoking and no opioids. The health message can change and save your life as well. And the very God of peace sanctify you wholly. And I pray, God, your whole what? Body, soul, and mind be preserved how? Blameless unto the coming of the Lord. The best part is this: faithful is he that calleth you, who will also do it. But he needs your permission. He needs your permission. He needs your cooperation. And you will be so healthy, so blessed. 2 meals a day. How many meals did they have going through the desert? How many meals did the raven feed Elijah? What was God teaching us? 2. If you will take this little message and put it into practice, your health will turn around. How do I know? Because I was on the way to becoming a diabetic. My mom died from a diabetic. All of her sisters, all of my aunties were diabetic. All of my brothers, I had 5 of them, were diabetics, except one. And he died at 22 from a gunshot wound to his head. But diabetes is pervasive in this country. Many people are on their way to becoming diabetics and don't even know it. And I'm sure Jody Johnson is taking care of all of that for you all. Because I watch the church service here sometimes, And she's on it. She is giving you everything that you need. Not saying you don't need to study, but you don't hear these particulars like I've heard Jody give them. Okay, my last little appeal here. It is a righteousness by faith. Because you haven't seen Jesus. You don't know if these things are right until later, but you do them by faith. Is that right? And it's a righteousness of faith, because it's not our faith, really. Whose faith is it? That's right. He did it all for us. That doesn't mean you don't have anything to do. It means he opened up the door for us to have power over sin, to be overcomers, to become righteous and holy as he is, but we must obey. Okay, last little paragraph. Dear brothers and sisters in Christ, God gave this health message to his end-time people to prepare them for his coming, cleansed of all filthiness of the flesh and spirit. You cannot do it without this health message. It is our strongest asset. Come on, let's get going. Step fast. We have a song.